What's going on, everyone? ODC here, and I'm back with another action figure review. Today's review, we're going to take a look at the G.I. Joe Classified Series Firefly. Now, this was a Cobra Island exclusive. This is a figure that I got actually quite a long time ago, and I'm just now getting to doing his review. You'll have to excuse, I don't normally do reviews like this. I usually like to have the figure in hand and talk about him while I can, articulate him and all that stuff. But I am out of town. I am actually back in Buffalo, New York, in my hometown, and visiting family. And I brought this guy along with me because I did want to do a review. I just didn't know how I was going to do it. I had limited resources, so I'm using a natural daylight for my lighting. So if it's a little bit dark or a little bit, the tones are a little bit off, that's just trying to understand that's why. But I'm here to talk about this figure, and why? Why this figure? Because he's actually one of my favorites going into this classified series. And to be honest with you, everything about him makes perfect sense. How they updated him makes sense. The accessories that they gave him make sense. The articulation makes sense. The range of motion makes sense. Everything that he comes with makes perfect sense. And I know there's a lot of nitpicks and gripes about the figure itself because, the tack vest isn't removable. Okay, none of them are. The tack vest, I don't like it because it's got that big collar piece and it's all bulky and stuff. It does make sense for the character. The guy is dealing with explosives all the time. He's not going to run around in just a shirt, like his original concept. And I think a lot of people, there's a lot of constant misconceptions of how this line was going to start off, which was a little bit of vintage, a little bit of modern, and a little bit of sci-fi. Because that's what G.I. Joe's always been, is a little bit of all of those. And it makes perfect sense from a concept or a design standpoint to update the figure. And the character. The character has to evolve. If G.I. Joe never evolves and it's just stuck in the Cold War, we're forever going to just get the continued same old from G.I. Joe. And I thought in the beginning of this line, they were actually taking steps in the right direction. I even thought the movie figures looked good for the most part, other than the blandness of Snake Eyes and the blandness of Storm Shadow. I thought the other figures looked great, and you'll see a couple of them in this review. But this figure, I think they hit a home run with this figure. I think this should have been in the regular line, not in the Cobra Island subline as a Target exclusive. I think this is not a niche character. It's a character that's a staple for Cobra, and I thought he was a necessity to have within the line. There's a lot of little nuances about the figure that really step him apart from the rest. And it's really tough because, as much as I love that Major Blood figure, I want to say this is that top tier figure too. It's up there. I did add a couple little extra things with the figure. Not really extra things. I should say one extra thing. You'll see it right in this photo right here with the Gridiron Studios AK with the drum magazine. I just thought it fit him. It fit the character. It's something that is lightweight enough, even with the drum. I know drums get kind of heavy, but I thought it made sense for the character, and something that you want to use, you want to have a lot of ammunition for in a rapid state, so you can get out of a situation quick and tuck and run if you need to. The figure itself, like I said, looks good. Just looking at it right here from an aesthetic standpoint, I think he looks great. I like the tack vest. A lot of people complain about it because I think they were just, ready to get that traditional look with just the cross bandoliers, or whatever you want to call it, that he initially had. This is, I think, it's like a touch of retro with a little bit of Pursuit of Cobra. If they would have went full Pursuit of Cobra and gave him that kind of insectoid / alien-esque helmet that the Pursuit of Cobra figure came with, that I love so much. It's like one of my favorite Pursuit of Cobra figures. I think they would have knocked it out of the park, because you want to have some sort of ballistic mask while working with explosives. and you want to have some sort of ballistic, almost bomb-esque tack vest that can withstand an explosion if it does happen. He is an expert with explosions, but mistakes do happen. I've seen weapons experts have misfires with guns and shoot themselves randomly. It just happens with stuff like that. You can be an expert all day, but if something malfunctions, it malfunctions. There's nothing you can do about it. So protecting yourself is always key number one. So that's why I thought it made sense. I want to say, for the most part, everything else on him looks fantastic. Don't have too many issues as far as, articulation, range of motion, but we'll get to all of that, and let's actually step into that right now with some articulation. Okay, really quick, just as far as articulation does go, his head can swivel at a full 360 rotation for his head. He is on a hinge joint. This is before they were doing the whole ball peg situation that they're doing now. But it is on a hinge joint. You can get it up about that far. It's a little bit hindered almost due to the fact that he is a little bit frozen in the neck still. But there you go. He can look up about that far. He can look down about that far. He can also pivot side to side, which is pretty decent range of motion for the head. The arms can go up about that far, go down, full 360 rotation in the arm. He does have the butterfly joint, which I believe is there. Let me double check that. Yes, there's that butterfly joint that all classified figures have. A little bit frozen on mine, but it's using that beachhead upper body. Bicep swivel. He does have a double jointed elbow. And he does have a swivel at the wrist. He does have the pistol hinge on the wrong side, which should be on the right side, but they always put it on the left. I don't know why. Everybody's a lefty and not a righty. He's got a hinge joint on the other side that goes lateral instead of so lateral on this side, vertical on the other side. He does have an ab crunch. It's very hindered due to the bulkiness of the vest, but you can kind of get him to crunch back a little bit and just move forward. He can pivot side to side a little bit, not too much. He can swivel at the waist, full 360 rotation at the waist right there. He can do the splits very nicely. He does have drop-down legs, which I don't necessarily trust drop-down legs with Hasbro figures. I don't know. There's just a thing about SH Figuarts figures that work for drop-down hips, and then something just about Hasbro's plastic. It just has me worried about them. So I tend to usually not use them as much, but they are there. They do exist. He has upper thigh swivel. He does have a double jointed knee, which gets good range of motion there. He does have an ankle. We can point the toe. He can point the heel, ankle pivot, and 2 peg holes at the bottom of his feet. And I apologize right away. He does also have boot swivel. And I also apologize for my lighting being crap because I am out of town and in Buffalo. So I don't have much as far as a review table. But that's his articulation in a nutshell. Really good range of motion. Hindered in a little bit, a couple places like the chest area for obvious reasons due to the tack vest getting in the way. But I still think he gets decent to good range of motion. And he has really good articulation for that matter. Okay, and we're back with the accessories. This is pretty much everything that he does come with from Hasbro. He comes with a backpack, goggles, drone, a pistol, a drone controller, and his dynamite / TNT, whatever you'd like to call it. Stepping in first, we'll talk about the drone here. I think this is a cute little guy. I like him. He is actually have points of articulation in the hips. You can actually bend him over, which is really cool. I like the little detail on him. I like the little red dot in the front. You can tell that's his, how he can be controlled and what Firefly can see from that perspective. But I really like the detail and the little kind of almost like hovercraft spindles on the top, and he has one spindle in the back. But I really like this little drone design, and it's compact. It's small enough where it makes sense. And here is the back of the drone. You can see that little spindle for the back. Next up, we've got the backpack. A backpack is very functional as far as what's going on here, and I like the detail here. It's minimal in a lot of paint apps, but you can see that there is little tools right there that are painted silver, and even a wrench up top that you can see kind of poking out, so it gives up the illusion that he does have wrenches and stuff like that, and lock picks and fun little stuff. And I like the detail overall. It could use a little bit of a, some more paint detail, a little bit of a wash here. I think would help it exponentially. Or even just some red details going throughout the little patterns on the right-hand side there on the bottom. But next up, we've got the pistol. Now, this is based off of a Nerf gun, I'm supposed. That's what it's supposed to be. Personally, I use this pistol because I gave him the Gridiron Studios AK. I use this pistol as his line launcher, because he's going to want to scale things. He's going to want to get behind enemy lines, and sometimes you need a scaling gun. So I gave him this in my universe as a scaling gun, not as a regular pistol. So that's what I thought made sense to me the most. The only thing I really don't like about the design, because Cobra is usually futuristic looking, which doesn't bother me, the design of the gun. The only thing that really bothers me is the peg sticking out of the side of the gun on the other side. And this is something that they did in the early days of the guns. I just don't like it. It looks awful, and it's not going to age well. It looks kiddish. It does look like a kid's toy. And this is more adult collector themed. It even says adult collector on it. So here he is holding the pistol. So if you want to see that, and I think it looks good. For the most part, like I said, don't have an issue. I think it fits in with his aesthetic and the character design. So, like I said, don't have too many issues there at all. Here he is kind of holding it up, looking like a boss with his goggles down. And the goggles really do give him another aesthetic as well, which we'll get into next. Which are the goggles. I like the way this looks, and we've only seen a couple others with goggles, like the Cobra Trooper, and I think this makes sense for him. This could also be used as his kind of what the drone can see, he can see as he's controlling it. So that's what I like to think of, because of the little antenna sitting there on his on the side of the goggles right there. But I like the little red for the eyes section, so he can see what the drone sees. And then that's what it looks like with the goggles on his head. They fit nice and snug. Doesn't feel too snug, like they're going to snap or anything like that. But here they are with the goggles down, and I think it kind of changes the look of his character a little bit. He looks a little bit more menacing with those down. Next up, we've got the dynamite / TNT, whatever you'd like to call it, his explosives. I don't mind this. It's very simplistic and very traditional. It does have like a little timer or some sort of actuator on there, or maybe detonator. It doesn't look painted. I might go over with a little bit of red paint and just paint that center section for the black. But on the other side, it's got a little hole, and that little hole has a purpose, because what I like to do is either attach that to the drone's feet and have him kind of pretend he's flying it around, or you can attach it to the function on the bottom of his backpack. There's a little peg that sticks out of the backpack, and you can connect it there. Next up, we've got the drone controller. This is really awesome. I love this. This is a nice little cool thing, and he's got a little pad, and it works with his goggles. That's what I like to think. And he can control the drone and send the drone wherever he needs to. I like the little bit of the pad where you can see where his hand is going to go, that little finger section. This definitely could have used some other paint apps, maybe some silvers, maybe some, I don't know, even some reds going on here, something to give a little bit more detail. On the back, you can see a little bit more detail, and that actually has a function, that little piece sticking out there. That's actually going to plug into the back of the backpack, so everything can kind of conceal, like he's put it in his backpack, which is another really awesome thing that I love about G.I. Joe is that they do these little things where you can store stuff and he can hold all of his weapons and stuff like that. I just love it when action figures can hold all of their accessories and he has storage for everything. And you'll see this little peg piece, see right there, there's a little pop that peg piece right onto the circle portion right there on the back, and it plugs right in, fits right in, it's nice and snug, and you put it on his back and you don't even notice it's there. It's so cool. I love those little things. Next up, I gave him, here's the Gridiron Studios AK, it's like a, I want to say it's almost like an AK-47U. Maybe I'm wrong here, but it does come with a drum. I thought it looked really cool, and I thought it went perfectly with his aesthetic if you're trying to dumb him down a little bit and give him something a little bit more real world, just so he can get out of a situation quick. I thought the drum made sense for him. Like I said, Gridiron Studios has a ton of other stuff, and so does Valaverse for that matter. A ton of different options for you to choose from. And even McFarlane has options for you to choose from as far as a munitions pack now. So plenty of options for you to go with as far as extra weapons you want to give them if you don't like the weapons that Hasbro has given them. Like I said, I think the sci-fi realm does work with Cobra. I want to say that they're a little bit more advanced than the normals. But yeah, I don't know. Personally, I like everything he's came with, and I just wanted to add that little bit more. Here he is with his gun. I think he looks really good with that. That's his, I like to see as a line launcher, but back to the accessories. Here's his little drone, and his drone can actually store on his backpack as well. You'll see those two little notches on the top of his backpack, and then you see his little feet right there. And those feet actually slide right into those two notches right up top, and he fits right on top of the backpack. This is where form meets function perfectly. I love this aesthetic. I love that these little things, and it's not too gimmicky. It just makes sense for the character, and it makes sense for the action figure to actually have an action feature without being, you know, oh, you have to twist his hips to make his legs move up and down and flail ridiculously. No, this is simple. Plug his feet into the back of the backpack, or the top of the backpack, excuse me, and just kind of, you want to rotate his front end downward, and you'll see right here, that's how he stores. And that's how he can also, in my mind, recharge, because I like to think that he's got a little battery pack in there, and he can recharge his drone that way. And it also works as a storage feature for him. So this is, like I said, I love this little stuff that they think of to do. This is ingenious stuff that makes sense for the character, and someone actually put some time and effort and some love and affection into this design. I know for a fact that the designer that does these is a big fan of Pursuit of Cobra, so maybe that's why we're getting some of these aesthetics, but I love it. And that's kind of pretty much how you can store everything. The dynamite, the drone, and the pistol, which you'll see the peg sticking out. In this next photo, you'll see it all stored for you to pretty much go on a mission with, man. Set up some, be the saboteur we all know he needs to be. This is how you plug in the backpack just onto his back. You'll see a little porthole there, plugs in, boom, there you go. Self-explanatory, not really much that I need to hold your hand there for you. Backpacks are backpacks. Next up, we've got some size comparisons. Here he is with the Classifieds Duke, and we've got the movie Scarlet, which is a very underrated figure, by the way. Very underrated figure. The head sculpt, the overall aesthetic of her, she is a fantastic figure. Next up, because I'm limited, we've got some Motu Fake Ore, and we've got the movie Baroness. And then last up, we've got King Grayskull and Stinkor from the Revelations line. Next up, I wanted to do a little segment if he can actually balance with all of his stuff on here. So, I don't know, I just, I wanted to see, can he do it with even holding a weapon with all this stuff and the backpack and everything. So let's take a look. And he can do it. He can absolutely do it. This is the type of stuff that I love. This is why this type of figure is a top tier figure to me. It is a form meets function to the nth degree, and I love that. That's like a huge coup for any toy collector, is to have a figure that can do stuff like this. To me, this figure, I just think knocks everything out of the park. The next up, I just want to kind of talk about some of the details. The face sculpt looks great. You know, you can see he is battle worn and battle ready, and he's been through some stuff. I mean, look at his facial expression here. It looks like he's seen better days. His one eye is wide open, the other eye is kind of squinching, you know. It just looks like he's been through a lot. Maybe even an explosive went off in front of his face. That's why his one eye is kind of googly. But I love it. I think it just builds that extra little bit of character, because he does have a balaclava on his head, essentially. Not essentially, but he does have a balaclava on his head. Next up, we've got the Cobra logo on the side of his armor, and it's just one shoulder piece. It's an armored piece, and I think it looks good. The Cobra symbol looks nice and crisp and clean, with a little bit of battle damage there. Next up, we've got the back of him, and you can see the little details that are kind of lost in the shuffle, especially when you have the backpack on. But I just kind of wanted to point these out because I thought they look really good. He's got lots of platelet armor everywhere, and same goes for the front of the figure. I mean, there's some battle damage here. You can see a lot of nicks and scrapes and cuts, and this just makes me want to take some of my paints and just kind of go nuts and give them a nice light wash. Nothing too crazy, just to pull out some of that battle damage and some of the stuff that's kind of hidden with the lack of paint apps from Hasbro. And then we've got the grenades, the frag grenades on the side of his shoulder here, which we're used to seeing with Firefly from his traditional look. So they threw a little bit of tradition in there with you. Like I said, winks and nods, man. Winks and nods are always accepted, excuse me. The legs look pretty good. Like I said, they don't look skinny. They doesn't look disproportionate. He looks great, man. I just love it. Legs look cool. I like that he's got some knee armor there. It makes sense. And next up, we've got the boots. And I like the design of the boots. It looks futuristic while looking military-esque. You know, nothing too crazy there, but I like the sculpt of the boots. Like I said, another little thing that can use a little bit of a wash. Nothing too crazy. You don't want to make him look like he rolled around in crap, but, you know, same thing. And next up, I've just kind of shot a couple photos just as a look for the line launcher, how he looks holding it up. And it doesn't look, like I said, it doesn't look too big. It doesn't look too funky in his hands or anything like that. And I think it makes more sense for me to have him use that as a line launcher. I don't know, maybe it could be a multi-purpose futuristic line launcher / pistol if he needs to get out of a hairy situation. He ran out of ammunition. He could use that as like some sort of like dart gun or something like that if he wants to subdue somebody. You know, use your imagination, let it go wild. That's the point here. But yeah, I don't know. I mean, I think it's getting close to it as far as the figure goes. I mean, my final thoughts are, I would say this is a 2 thumbs up, way up. I love this figure, and I don't know. There's really not much else to say that I haven't said about it. I love the details on him. Sure, it could use a little bit, like I said, a little bit more paint as far as paint detail goes, but I think they really nailed this figure from head to toe. The face sculpt looks good. The articulation's really good. The detail, even just on his rig, on his chest armor, looks fantastic. I love the little nods to the traditional looking 80s Firefly, and I love the little nuances for some of the updates for him. The Nerf gun thing doesn't bother me with Cobra. As far as G.I. Joe goes, I dumbed them down a little bit for modern stuff, but I think, like I said, if you haven't gotten this guy yet, he's still, you know, you can still get him for around 30 to 40 bucks. I think that I wouldn't go past the $30 price point. I think he is a fantastic figure, and I would definitely add him to your collection. Even if you're not a big G.I. Joe person and you only like Firefly, this is a good pickup for you. I think this is a really good looking version of him. If, like I said, if you want to, you know, coax between that line of tradition and modern, go for it. and I think it works. But that's pretty much going to be it for me. Let me know what you guys think in the comments below. Thank you for watching, as always, and I'll see you guys on the flip side.